Hi guys. I know it's not Sunday. I know I don't usually do videos on Fridays, but I felt that I needed to. Um, so I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but we're supposed to be boycotting Olive Garden, and it triggered me. We're boycotting Olive Garden because there was a server who received a $700 tip from a family or a group of people that Olive Garden pretty much disputed and said that they were going to take 20%, and then ended up the server was crying and went home and came back the next day, and they ended up firing her. It's disgusting. So this has triggered me big time, because I worked for Olive Garden for, I think, 3 years. I believe, if I'm remembering right, it was a long time ago. I was in my 20s, my early 20s. My son was little. And I had my own experience with Olive Garden, and it was horrific. And I'm going to talk about it because I have a right. It happened. So I worked under this general manager named Diane in Huntington Beach, California. This is before they tore down the building and built a new building. This was off of, I think, Garfield and Beach Boulevard. I can't believe I'm being this specific, and I can't believe I'm actually saying, because I wrote about this in my second book, I believe, and I didn't call out Olive Garden. I made up a different name for the restaurant, but this happened, so fuck it. There was a server there named Lewis, and this is my first time talking about this publicly, and I can't believe I'm doing it. Lewis flirted like crazy, and I flirted back. I flirted a lot back then. You flirt to get tips, you flirt just to get by. I was young, I didn't know any better, right? But I'm telling you this because they use that as an excuse for their poor behavior. So this flirting went on for months, and I was working an early evening shift, I think, or a late afternoon shift, and Lewis and I were in the back in the line, where I was getting salads and breadsticks and all that stuff together, and it was only him and I, and then there was someone else, but she was off to the side and didn't see what happened, and the cooks were back there, but they weren't paying attention. So I was going to make the salads, and I saw Lewis peripherally come up behind me, and didn't really pay much attention. Next thing I know, he's got me with his arms held down on the counter, and he's rubbing himself on my backside, and I couldn't move. I couldn't get up. I couldn't, nothing. And I froze. And as a survivor of narcissistic abuse, it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? You don't get to choose which one you do. And I froze, and until I couldn't freeze anymore. And then I got out. I maneuvered my way out. I don't know how, and turned around, and I remember his fucking face, like shocked that I was looking at him the way that I was looking at him, and I hit him. I either hit him or I pushed him, but I think I hit him, and I don't remember if it was in the shoulder or in the face or where. I just swung and got the hell away from him, and it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. So I was sexually assaulted at work, right? I go and I start looking for my manager in the front. Got the hell out of the line, started looking for my manager in the front. My manager's name was Diane. I don't remember her last name, but she was the GM at the time. And Diane listened to me. I was crying. She went and she found Lewis. They put me in the office, and I was there by myself, and I was just sobbing. And they found Lewis, and he told whatever fucking version of the story he told. And she came back and she's like, "You hit him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I hit him." And she's like, "Well, why didn't you cry out? Why didn't you yell out?" That was her response. Let me explain something. When you're being sexually assaulted, you don't think like that. You just, whatever is going on in the moment, you're trying to survive. And you go into survival mode. And I was always in survival mode, so this was like a whole new level of fucking survival. And I remember her saying, "Why didn't you yell no?" or "Why didn't you yell for one of us?" or whatever. And I didn't know. I didn't have an answer. And she pretty much was like, "Okay, we're going to do an investigation." Now, mind you, I was a mess. This had just happened, and I was a mess. What should have happened is they should have called the goddamn police. They should have called the police, and they didn't. And I was not within the wherewithal at the time to be like, "Call the police." I was trusting those with authority over me, and I shouldn't have, because we went home. They sent him home, and I went home, and a few days later they came back with their decision. Their decision was to move him to a new Olive Garden, I believe in Santa Ana. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that they moved him to Santa Ana. And we were both written up. We were both written up. I was written up because I hit him or pushed him or whatever I did. I made physical contact with him to get him the hell away from me. That's what they did. They never called the police. They never did anything other than that. And my family of origin, I told a couple members, I told my grandma. And my grandma was like, "Were you flirting with him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I always flirted with him. I flirted with a lot of people." And she's like, "Well, you shouldn't have done that," kind of thing. Like it was my fault. So I was made to think that this was somehow my fucking fault. Let me explain. 46-year-old Jaren versus 20-something-year-old Jaren knows differently now. Didn't then, but I know now. It was not my fault. None of that was my fault. If you flirt with some guy and they sexually assault you, it is not your fault. It is not your fault. What was done to me was wrong. It was wrong. And I don't give a shit if Olive Garden comes after me or whatever, because this happened. And I'll fucking fight it. I'll fucking fight it. These motherfuckers. Yeah. Boycott them. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I've been angry about this for a long time. A long time. 46-year-old Jaren knows better now. So, yeah. I encourage you, if you've worked for them and you have your own story, tell it. Tell it. Because this is some bullshit. And to that poor server that they fired over a $700 tip that they felt entitled to, assholes, I am so sorry that they're doing this to you. She has a young son on the spectrum, and she's a single mom from what I've read. That's disgusting. How dare they do this to her? How dare they do this to her, and how dare they do that to me? So that's my story, guys. That's my story. Do you have a story? I encourage you to tell it. And don't ever, ever let anybody treat you that way. What happened to me was not my fault. That was not my fault. And what they're doing to this poor server is wrong. And it needs to be called out. This corporate bullshit needs to be called out. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. You take care.